Well, this just happened. What am I talking about? There's some news when it comes to Zebec, even though nothing I say is financial advice. Not too long ago, Zebec announced that it is now in the Bloomberg Galaxy DeFi Index. Now, people may be thinking, okay, who really cares about this? Well, you have to think about it. Bloomberg is, first of all, very massive. It's very well known. Not to mention, if I take a look at it, ZBCN, right? Added to the Bloomberg Galaxy DeFi Index, it's now one of the 23 that are selected across the entire DeFi ecosystem. We have to consider this. One of 23. It's not one of 200, 100, not even 50, right? Supposedly one out of 23. So that's pretty impressive in my perspective. Now, if we take a look at it, comparatively speaking, out of the 23, the weight of ZBCN is just around 1.5% of that. So it just, again, makes up kind of not really such a big amount of that index, so to speak. However, at the same time, we have to also consider what is the whole vibe when it comes to this. Now, again, the Bloomberg Galaxy DeFi Index tracks the largest DeFi protocols, and it's like rebalanced monthly, right? So, I mean, is ZBCN going to be there forever? I mean, I don't know, right? But then again, they do rebalance it monthly, so we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. But still, it's pretty impressive nonetheless, in my perspective, because when it comes to a project that has a vibe of Solana, oftentimes many people don't really consider it to have the best fundamentals, right? Because they think about it as like, oh, it's a fun project that has like a meme type of vibe. But in this case, it doesn't seem to be the case, right? I think Zebec is kind of changing that along with other projects out there that have the Solana vibe, like for instance, Render and as well as Pith. But yeah, even besides that, I like what I'm seeing when it comes to this, because when I take a look at something like Zebec, it just feels like they're actually putting some effort when it comes to this, because some other projects out there, it just doesn't feel like they want to put the effort. Now, when it comes to Zebec, it's not really known for the DeFi aspect, I think, in some cases, but I think this right here is pretty kind of interesting because it just brings a little bit more kind of avenues, I think, for Zebec, because if we take a look at it, Zebec is already focused on AI-based PayFi, right? It's already focused on payrolls, it's focused on real-world assets, it's focused on payments, global chain finance, but then we kind of add that sort of whole vibe of DeFi as well. I think it's pretty interesting. Keep in mind, according to Grandview Research, the DeFi market is expected to be worth over 200 billion by 2030. Now, we're not in 2030, of course, and there's kind of no way for me to know that unless I'm in 2030, but I'm just saying, that's just pretty interesting for me to see nonetheless. Now, I get it. Even despite the slight recovery when it comes to ZBCN, 10 cents, it's still kind of far away, right? I mean, we're still around 29 and a half times lower than that, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things is pretty far. But not too long ago, we were actually around 11 times lower than that point, which kind of showcases how even though we're over like basically double that point, right, in terms of being lower, but the thing is, ZBCN has not experienced that type of like moment where some other projects out there, they reach new all-time lows or pretty much are in the range of their all-time lows. Some of them are going back to the levels in which we haven't seen in pretty much around 5 years. Like some projects out there, they reach like lows in which they last saw back in 2020. And that was before the 2021 altcoin season. You know what I mean? ZBCN has not kind of become that low, hypothetically, like in sense where it's reaching new all-time lows or something like that, right? Yes, it's had a big pullback from its most recent peak, but it hasn't been as drastic as some other projects out there. Now, what do I think is a cause of that? Well, I think first of all, we're seeing around 88,000 holders, so maybe is that a reason? Who knows? Also on top of that, Circle, which supposedly holds a significant amount of ZBCN. Keep in mind, right? Circle, it's the creator of USDC, and then it's also publicly listed. If they're holding ZBCN, are they going to be exiting every time the market doesn't do the best? I don't know about that, because do they even really need ZBCN to begin with? I mean, that's just my point of view. I think probably not, right? I mean, they're so massive. Even if they don't even focus on anything else other than USDC, I think they would be completely fine anyways. But even besides that, we take a look at Solana Ventures. Solana Ventures, it's one of the backers when it comes to Zebec. Does Solana Ventures believe in every single project out there that has a Solana vibe? No. This is my perspective, right? Like, I don't think Solana Ventures is going to back every single project out there that kind of appears that has a Solana vibe. At least that's the point I want to put across, right? That's just my point of view. However, when it comes to ZBCN, do I think those factors are helping somewhat contribute to sort of the, relatively speaking, pretty decent stability for an altcoin, in which, generally speaking, an altcoin with a market cap like this, which is in the hundreds of millions, not nowhere close to even a billion, usually during a market downturn, the volatility is completely different, right? I mean, the price movements are going to be a lot more drastic and all this type of stuff. So I think maybe in that sense, could it indirectly give ZBCN a little bit more stability, even though it's actually not as stable, of course, as something like an Ethereum or like a Bitcoin? You know what I mean? I would arguably say maybe, because if they didn't hold ZBCN at all, maybe it'd be a completely different case. Take a look at, for instance, XCN. XCN at one point, right? Or should I say Onyx? That historically has reached greater heights than something like ZBCN, at least in the past 2 years. Let's take a look at XCN. This year, we saw a market cap of around $1 billion. ZBCN this year has never reached that market cap. You know what I mean? The most it ever reached, like this year, we saw a market cap of around $500 million. So XCN actually, at one point, was around 2 times that. But the thing is, ZBCN has been holding up, relatively speaking, way better than XCN, to the point that ZBCN actually has a higher market cap currently than XCN, even though XCN just this year alone has reached a market cap that is around 2 times, I should say, of what ZBCN reached even this year at its peak. So the way I view it is that ZBCN, again, hasn't done as well as XCN historically speaking, but is holding up better. So I think maybe that is a little bit of an indirect reason when it comes to the aspect of Circle, and as well as something like, Solana Ventures, but who knows? This is just my perception. Now, when it comes to the idea of 10 cents, again, we're still quite a ways away from that, and who knows if that can ever even become a hypothetical possibility. But I'm just saying, however, at the idea of maybe 10 cents at a market cap of around $9.5 billion, that's not a groundbreaking achievement by any means. It's not something that has never been ever reached before historically or something like that. When I take a look at something like XCN, my perspective is that could that do pretty okay, maybe? It wouldn't surprise me, but when it comes to ZBCN, if it did okay hypothetically as well, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me either. The way you take a look at it is that when it comes to ZBCN and as well as XCN, they're kind of, competing against one another in a sense where they're trying to have that number 4 spot within this space, because we know that Stellar is number 2, right? We know that XDC is number 3. I don't think that if, let's say, there's an altcoin season, ZBCN or XDC could just become like number 2 or something like that. So it's pretty much somewhat kind of competing for that number 4 spot within the space of payments and global chain finance. Now, it was before XCN, now it's ZBCN, but who knows, it could change like that. But the thing is, I'm never going to be able to know which one truly has that space, right? Or should I say that spot, if, let's say, there is a prolonged sort of altcoin season and whatnot. So this is why I do, dollar cost average into both, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything, and even though nothing I say is financial advice. But that's just kind of the whole vibe that I have right now when it comes to ZBCN and as well as Onyx. But I just wanted to make a video real quick and just talk about this, because I think it's pretty impressive considering how this kind of news out there, or should I say this news that came out, it just kind of came out of left field, right, when it comes to ZBCN. I mean, I wasn't expecting this, but then, you know what, it happened, so I think it is pretty cool. At the end of the day, in my perspective, I'm still going to wait and see what happens when it comes to ZBCN. I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle, and I'm just waiting, dollar cost averaging once a month, and that's pretty much about it, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. However, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.